The morning my parents transferred our family bakery to my sister's husband, something inside me snapped. Quietly, dangerously, in a way even I didn't recognize. I stood there covered in flour and betrayal while they smiled at a man who couldn't bake without burning water. 16 years of my life erased with one signature. But what none of them knew was this. The moment they handed him my future, I started crafting something far darker. Not revenge, ruin. And trust me, nobody walks out of this story whole. If you're interested in this, just hit the like button, subscribe, and type interested in the comments, and I will give you a heart. If you've never had your whole life flipped in the same room where you learned to roll dough, count yourself lucky. The bakery was my world long before I ever knew what the world really was. While other kids grew up on cereal and cartoons, I grew up on 4 a.m. alarms, the hiss of ovens kicking on, and my mother barking orders like the head chef of a boot camp. My earliest memories are sugar dust on my eyelashes, dough stuck under my fingernails, and my dad lifting me up so I could check the proofing like I understood anything at 6 years old. I knew the difference between overmixed batter and underbaked bread before I knew long division. I could braid challah with my eyes half closed and identify a bad batch of yeast by smell alone. When kids in school said their family business was insurance or real estate, I shrugged and said, "We sell childhood memories and sugar comas." Everyone loved the bakery. Customers always said, "You're so lucky, this place must feel like home." It did, until the day I realized home had no problem setting you on fire if it made the story look better. My sister, Elise, had always been the delicate one. Pretty, soft-spoken, not built for hard work, according to my mother. She floated in and out of the bakery like a guest, nibbling samples and posing for pictures, while I hauled sacks of flour and cleaned the grease traps. She was the smile in front of the display case. I was the hands behind it. And then came her husband, Jeremy, the kind of man who could talk for 30 minutes about his vision and 15 seconds about actual work. The kind of man who called our croissants crescent bread the first time he came in. The kind of man my parents heard use the word expansion once and decided he was a genius. The day everything snapped, it started like any other. Me at the counter, apron already dusted white at 5:30 IUM, running through pre-orders, double-checking delivery slips, calculating how much batter we needed for the Saturday rush. My mom moved like a whirlwind in the back. My dad fiddled with the register, pretending he still understood how it worked. And somewhere around 7 a.m., Elise and Jeremy walked in, like they were arriving late to their own engagement party. Elise wore a blazer over a dress like she'd just come from a Pinterest board. Jeremy had that obnoxious confidence posture, hands on hips, chin up like he was about to pitch a startup. My stomach dropped, and not in a cute rom-com moment way. In the way you feel just before a car crash. "We need to talk," my dad said, wiping his hands on a towel that had been clean at some point in 1997. Those 4 words were never followed by anything good. My mom appeared beside him, clutching a manila folder like it contained the secret to eternal life. "Can you come to the office for a minute?" she asked. No smile, no warmth. Just that tight, careful tone people use when they're hoping you won't scream. I followed them into the tiny office, my prison, my headquarters, my second home. It smelled like coffee, ink, and stress. Stacks of invoices lined the walls, schedules pinned up with old tape, sticky notes on every surface. I'd cried in that room, laughed in that room, fixed 1,000 problems in that room. I didn't know yet it was about to become the place where the last piece of my trust died. Jeremy and Elise squeezed in behind me, closing the door. Too many bodies. Not enough air. My dad cleared his throat. That nervous cough he always did when he was about to say something he knew was wrong but was going to say anyway. "We've made a decision," he began. My mother gave him a quick look, then turned her eyes to me. "About the future of the bakery?" I didn't say anything. My heart was already racing, my brain cataloging possibilities. Maybe they were finally retiring and wanted me to take over officially. Maybe they'd found an investor. Maybe, for once, this wouldn't be a disaster. We've decided, my mom said, placing the folder on the desk, to transfer the bakery to Elise and Jeremy. My first reaction wasn't even words. It was a physical glitch, like my brain short-circuited and couldn't process the sentence. I just stared, blinking. Flour on my arms, sugar on my apron, 16 years of unpaid overtime lodged in my chest like a stone. Sorry, I said slowly. You've decided to what? My dad straightened his shoulders, forcing confidence. We're transferring ownership of the bakery. To them. He gestured at Elise and Jeremy, who stood there looking like the winners of a game I didn't know we were playing. Elise gave me this tiny smile that tried to say, I didn't ask for this, but the way her fingers clung to Jeremy's arm told another story. You're joking, I said. My voice came out too calm, too even. I could feel something inside me pulling tight like a rope being twisted. This isn't a joke, my mother replied. It's what's best for the business. Best for the business. I stared at them, then at Jeremy. He can't even make frosting without a YouTube tutorial. Jeremy shifted, offended. I can learn. You once asked me, I continued, eyes locked on him, why we can't just use pancake mix for cakes. Elise tried to step in. Look, we all have strengths. You're amazing at baking, but Jeremy is amazing at what exactly? I cut her off. Using big words and breaking mixers, my dad slammed his palm on the desk. Enough. We're tired. We're getting old. We don't have the energy for late nights and early mornings. This is our decision. So after watching me run this place for years, I said slowly, your big idea is to hand it to the one person who's never broken a sweat in here unless it was from standing near the oven. My mom exhaled sharply, frustration spilling out. You're emotional. You're talented, yes, but you're impulsive. You argue. You question everything. That's called caring, I snapped. You want someone who doesn't care enough to fight you? We want someone who thinks bigger than flour and sugar, she shot back. Someone who sees potential, branding, growth, franchising. There it was, the part that almost made me laugh. They didn't want a baker, they wanted a mascot. They wanted Elise and her husband to be the glossy couple on a brochure, while I stayed in the back, anonymous hands, making their photos look good. So what happens to me? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. You can stay on, my dad said quickly. As head baker, you'd still be important, like a favorite spatula, useful until it breaks, replaceable. Elise spoke softly then, like she was offering me a consolation prize. We don't want to lose you. We really want you with us, just not in charge. You never even considered me, did you? I asked. The room went quiet. My mother looked away. My father's jaw tightened. Their silence was louder than any answer. Something inside me went very still. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't a movie breakdown. It was the slow, cold realization that I had built my entire life around people who couldn't imagine me as anything more than support staff. Okay, I said finally. My voice was calm. Too calm. It scared even me. Their shoulders relaxed slightly, as if they believed that one word meant surrender. As if that okay was acceptance. As if I was about to fall in line. Okay, my mother repeated. You understand? Oh, I understand perfectly, I said. I untied my apron, folded it neatly, and placed it on the desk. My fingers were steady, even as my blood roared in my ears. I looked at all of them, my parents, my sister, her husband, and smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It wasn't kind. It was sharp, controlled, dangerous. You're transferring the bakery to them, I said softly. So I quit, my mother gasped. You can't quit, my father barked. This is your home. No, I said. This was my training ground. There's a difference. Elise's eyes widened. You don't have to do this. I didn't have to do a lot of what I did, I replied. Yet, here we are. Jeremy opened his mouth like he had something wise to say, then wisely kept it shut. I turned, opened the office door, and walked out into the bakery one last time. The ovens hummed, the air smelled like fresh bread and cinnamon. Customers laughed softly at the tables. It was almost funny how normal everything looked while my entire life quietly collapsed. I stepped outside into the chill morning air, my hands empty for the first time in years. No trays, no receipts, no lists, just that quiet, snapping sound inside my chest. And as I walked away from the bakery, from them, from everything I'd built for someone else, an unwelcome but undeniable thought crept in. If they chose him over me so easily, what would happen if I stopped being the good, obedient piece in their little game? The strange thing about betrayal is that it doesn't explode. It simmers. It simmers in your spine, in your teeth, in the quiet spaces behind your ribs where anger doesn't shout, it waits. By the time I reached the end of the block, my pulse had settled into something frighteningly calm, not rage, not heartbreak, something sharper, something calculated, something that made the cold morning air feel almost warm against my skin. The bakery door shut behind me with a soft chime, and for the first time in my life, that sound didn't feel like home. It felt like a lock clicking shut, a final one. I walked with no destination, no plan, just motion. My shoes hit the sidewalk with a rhythm that steadied me more than any hug or apology ever had. People passed by, oblivious. Someone laughed loudly nearby. Someone else carried a box of pastries from the bakery. My pastries. Made from my recipes, they would soon pretend were Elise and Jeremy's. I kept walking. In my brain replayed the scene in the office like a broken film reel. My mother clutching the folder, my father's stern expression, Elise's uncomfortable half smile, Jeremy's puffed up chest like he'd won something he didn't earn, and me standing there covered in flour, loyalty, and humiliation, not in charge. Their words echoed, "We want you with us, just not in charge." Translation, we want your labor, not your leadership. We want your talent, not your future. We want you small because it keeps us comfortable. It was almost funny. They spent years telling me I was too emotional, but they were the ones scared of losing control. I wandered until my feet led me to the old playground where Elise and I used to play as kids. The swings were rusted, the slides sun-faded, but the bench, our parents sit here and watch them bench, was still there. I sank onto it, watching a mother push her toddler on the swings. She smiled, he giggled, and I wondered what that kind of unconditional support even felt like. I squeezed my hands together and stared at the sky. 16 years. 16 years waking up before dawn. 16 years missing birthdays, holidays, nights out with friends. 16 years believing that the harder I worked, the more they'd trust me. 16 years believing I was earning something. Turns out I was earning nothing but convenience. I was their backup plan. I was the tire they never replaced because it still rolled. I was the cheap fix. Elise was the chosen one. Jeremy was the new shiny addition. And I was disposable. The realization hit me hard in the chest, not painful, just empty, like someone had scooped out the part of me that still hoped they saw my worth. I sat there until the cold made my fingers numb. Then my phone buzzed. "Mom, come back so we can talk." "Dad, stop overreacting." My jaw clenched. Overreacting. Of course. That word was practically tattooed on my forehead. "Elise, can we meet? Just us?" I didn't want this to happen like that. I stared at her message until the words blurred. Elise always didn't want things like this to happen, yet somehow they always happened in her favor. I didn't reply. Instead, I stood up and started walking, not back to the bakery, but to the little cafe on Oak Ridge. Neutral ground. Born lights. No memories. I needed a moment where the world didn't smell like yeast and betrayal. I ordered a coffee and sat in a corner booth, letting the steam thaw my frozen fingers. That's when someone slid into the seat across from me. "Lucas." I blinked. "How did you find me?" He shrugged. "You always come here when you're angry." He was right. Lucas had worked at the bakery for 2 years before leaving to start his own catering gig. He knew me too well. I stared at my coffee. They gave it to him. "I know." he said quietly. I heard. Of course you heard, I muttered bitterly. News travels fast when stupidity is involved. Lucas didn't laugh. He just watched me with those steady brown eyes that never rushed me. Tell me. So I told him. Every detail, every word, every betrayal. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I delivered the whole story with the calm precision of someone in shock. When I finished, Lucas leaned back slowly. They made a mistake. They made a decision, I corrected. No, he said, a mistake, and a big one. You're the only reason that place runs. Not anymore, I said, and that's the part that scares me. Good, he said. Fear means you're about to change your life. I frowned. What's that supposed to mean? He folded his arms. You don't quit something like that without a plan. So what's the plan? I don't have one. Liar. His tone was gentle but firm. You've been running that bakery for years. Your brain's always 3 steps ahead. I looked down at my hands. I don't know, Lucas. Maybe I should just walk away from baking. Maybe this is a sign. Sure, he said. Or maybe it's a sign that you're finally free to build something that belongs to you. The words punched something awake inside me. A thought I'd buried so deep under duty and exhaustion it barely had room to breathe. My own shop, my own space, my rules. No condescension, no being just the baker. No being overshadowed by pretty ribbons and pretty faces. Something dark and electric flickered through my chest. But before I could respond, the cafe door swung open and froze the air around us. Elise stepped inside, eyes red, makeup smudged, breath shaky. She spotted me instantly and walked straight over, trembling. I'm sorry, she blurted. I didn't know they were doing that today. But you knew they were doing it, I said. Not a question, a statement. Her lips parted. Her silence was the answer. I didn't think they'd actually choose him, she whispered. I thought they were bluffing. They weren't, I said. And neither am I. She swallowed hard. What are you going to do? I held her gaze, steady and cold. I'm not going back. Elise's face crumpled. But we need you. No, I interrupted. You need someone to clean up after you, to make you look good, to make him look good. I'm done being your foundation. She shook her head, tears spilling. You're being cruel. Cruel. There it was, the family's favorite word for when I stopped sacrificing myself. I leaned forward, voice low. Cruel would be staying and letting all of you drain whatever's left of me. Elise froze. Lucas watched quietly, eyes flicking between us. Elise whispered, So that's it? No, I said, that's the beginning. Her face twisted in confusion. She didn't know what beginning meant. She didn't understand that she and Jeremy hadn't just stolen a bakery. They'd awakened someone they weren't prepared to meet, someone who didn't forgive, someone who didn't forget, someone who had spent 16 years learning exactly how to destroy and rebuild from scratch. I stood up, pushed in my chair, and said the words that sealed everything. Tell them I'm gone, and tell them they're not ready for what comes next. The look on Elise's face wasn't sadness, it was fear. When Elise walked out of the cafe, trembling like a child who finally realized the monster under her bed was real, I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel guilt. What I felt was far more dangerous, clarity. The kind that settles into your bones and whispers, now watch what happens next. Lucas sat across from me, tapping his thumb against the coffee cup, a slow, rhythmic sound. Like a countdown. He's scared, he said. Good. The word slipped out before I could stop it. Not angry, not emotional, just factual. It surprised even me how clean it felt, like rinsing poison from my veins. Lucas watched my face. I've seen you angry, he said, but this is different. I'm done playing nice, I said quietly. They taught me that niceness gets you replaced. He didn't argue. Instead, he leaned forward, lowering his voice like we were planning a heist. So, what's the move? And there it was. The question that crackled through the air like static. The one that made my pulse quicken in a way that felt almost wrong. But I didn't care. "I'm opening my own shop," I said. The words tasted electric, final, alive. Lucas smirked. I knew it. "It won't be like theirs. It'll be better, cleaner, built properly. No shortcuts, no fake smiles." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "And no sister's husband wandering around calling baguettes long breads?" I laughed, a short, humorless sound. "Exactly." But underneath the bravado, something else churned. Not fear, anticipation, the kind that feels like standing at the edge of a cliff and realizing you're not afraid of the fall. You're afraid of how much you want to jump. Lucas tapped his fingers again. "You know they're gonna panic." "Good." "They're going to beg." "Let them. They'll get desperate." I met his eyes. "That's the point." He nodded slowly, a wicked little smile forming. "This is going to be fun. Fun. Not revenge, not spite. Fun." That should have terrified me. Instead, it made heat bloom in my chest. Then my phone buzzed. Again. 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 Dad. Mom. Elise. Even Jeremy. I didn't answer. I didn't even open them. But I saw the previews on the lock screen. "We need you. The orders are wrong. Customers are asking for you. The oven isn't working." Pleading answer. Of course, chaos broke loose the moment I stepped away. Their entire operation depended on the daughter they never wanted to lead. Every message tightened something inside me, not guilt, but power. And it felt disturbingly good. "Enjoying that?" Lucas asked, nodding toward my buzzing phone. "More than I should," I admitted. "Then enjoy it," he said. "You didn't create the chaos, they did." That hit hard. True, sharp, justified. I took a long breath. I guess they never thought I'd leave. They thought loyalty meant ownership. Lucas said, "It doesn't." The cafe door chimed. I didn't look up, but Lucas did, and his expression shifted instantly. "You've got company." My stomach tightened. Elise again? Jeremy? No, worse. It was my father. He walked in like the storm he always carried with him. Jaw tight, shoulders stiff, eyes scanning the room with a kind of desperation he would never admit was desperation. He spotted me, his nostrils flared. Oh, this was going to be ugly. He marched over, shoes pounding against the tile. "We need to talk," he said. No greeting, no pause, no softness, just command. I didn't move. "I'm busy." His eyebrows shot up. "You're sitting and? Don't talk back to me. Then don't talk to me like I work for you." The whole cafe went silent. Dad leaned closer, lowering his voice into a growl. "You quitting wasn't a request. It was a tantrum. Now get over it and come back." Lucas tensed beside me, but I held up a hand. "A tantrum?" I said softly. "You stole my future and gave it to a man who can't even spell bakery without autocorrect." "Enough," he hissed. "You're coming back." "No." The words sliced through the air, sharp and final. His face reddened. "We built that bakery. I built that bakery," I corrected. "You supervised." He froze. A vein in his temple pulsed. "You're ungrateful." "No," I said. "You're afraid." His jaw flexed. "Afraid?" "Yes, because for the first time in your life, you can't control me." Something flickered behind his eyes. Fear, anger, realization, loss. All wrapped into one expression he'd never let himself feel out loud. "We need you," he muttered. Not kindly, as an accusation. "Then you shouldn't have chosen him," I said. "You forced my hand. We're family." "Family? Doesn't assign you a life and punish you for wanting your own." His breath hitched. For a second, just 1 second, I saw the father I remembered from childhood. The one who lifted me onto the counter to decorate cupcakes, The one who laughed at my crooked first attempt at braiding dough, but that version of him had died long before today. Whatever he said next wasn't from love. It was from fear. If you walk away, he said slowly, our bakery will fall apart. I stared at him. Long, hard, cold. Not my problem. His eyes widened, shocked, betrayed, almost hurt. And in that moment, something twisted in my chest. Not guilt, but irony. Because for once, he was the one feeling replaced. This isn't over, he whispered, and then he left. Not with anger, with dread. That was worse. Lucas exhaled. Wow. Yeah, he's terrified. He should be, because something in that moment became painfully, wickedly real. This wasn't just a family fight. This wasn't just betrayal. This wasn't just a girl leaving a bakery. This was collapse, implosion, a complete unraveling of the world they had built on the assumption I would never walk away. And now, I wasn't just walking away, I was walking towards something new, something bigger, something they couldn't stop. But that wasn't the twist, not yet, because when I stepped outside the cafe, minutes later, ready to take my first real breath, someone was waiting for me on the sidewalk. Not Elise, not Jeremy, my mother, with a look on her face that made my stomach drop. Because it wasn't sadness, it was fear. She stood there, arms crossed, face pale, eyes sharp, like a woman who'd just seen her whole life teetering on the edge of a cliff and realized she was the one who pushed it there. We need to talk, my mother said quietly. Her voice didn't sound like the woman who used to hum while kneading dough or scold me for forgetting to sweep the floor. It sounded smaller, cracked, like someone trying to stitch together a story that was already unraveling. I didn't say anything, just stared. The wind picked up, tugging at the loose strands of my hair. You shouldn't have spoken to your father like that, she continued. He's worried. He's controlling, I said flatly. There's a difference. He's trying to hold this family together. By tearing me apart? Her lips pressed into a thin line. For once, she didn't have a retort, just silence, pregnant, heavy, awkward silence. The kind that used to make me apologize first, but not anymore. You think this is easy for us, she said finally. We're getting older. We needed to make sure the bakery survives. Then why give it to someone who's never stepped foot in it before me? I asked. Because Jeremy has ambition, she snapped. He has ideas. So do I snapped back, but mine don't come with hashtags and LinkedIn buzzwords. She flinched, but her pride forced her chin up. You've always been difficult, she said softly. Too independent, too stubborn. You don't listen, and that's exactly why your bakery survived, I said, because I didn't listen when everyone said we'd fail. Her eyes darted to the ground. You're being cruel. Stop saying that, I said. Stop calling self-respect cruelty. She opened her mouth, then stopped. The silence stretched again, except this time, she was the one fidgeting. Your father can't sleep, she said finally. He's terrified you'll open your own shop. He should be, I said, because I will. She blinked, stunned. You're serious? Dead serious. You really compete with us, she whispered, like she couldn't decide if I was her daughter or her enemy. I'm not competing, I said. I'm correcting history. She shook her head. You're angry. I'm awake. She stepped closer, voice trembling now. If you do this, you'll destroy this family. No, Mom, I said quietly. You already did. Something inside her cracked then. I saw it. The flicker of realization. The recognition that maybe, for once, she wasn't the victim. She was the villain in someone else's story. Her eyes glassed over. You sound just like your grandmother, she said softly. I frowned. What's that supposed to mean? She hesitated. She walked away too, from her family, from us, from everything. Said she'd never be small again, and she wasn't. And so what happened to her? My mother's gaze hardened. She died alone. For a second, everything went still. I didn't blink, didn't breathe. Just looked at her, realizing what she was really saying. This wasn't a warning, it was a curse. Maybe she was alone, I said finally, but she was free. My mother's voice broke. Freedom's overrated, so is approval, I said. She inhaled sharply like she'd been slapped. Then she straightened her posture, smoothed her jacket, and said coldly, "If you do this, don't come back." "Good," I said. "I won't." She turned away, took 2 steps, then paused. "You'll regret this," she said over her shoulder. I smiled faintly. "Maybe, but at least they'll be my regrets." She left without another word, her figure shrinking against the gray afternoon. For a moment, I almost pitied her. Almost. But then my phone buzzed again. A new message. Not from her, not from Dad, not from Elise, from an unknown number. Unknown. "I heard you're leaving the bakery. I might have a proposition." I stared at it, frowning. Another text came in immediately after. "Unknown, you don't know me, but I've been watching your work for a while. Call me." Attached was a business card photo. Samuel Grant, owner of the Millstone Cafe Group. My pulse spiked. The Millstone Cafe's high-end bakery chains scattered across the city. Modern, sleek, successful. The kind of place that got magazine features. And this man had been watching me? My curiosity wrestled with suspicion. Lucas leaned over. "Who's that?" I showed him the message. He let out a low whistle. "That's huge, or a scam." "It's not, he's legit." Lucas's eyes gleamed. "You should meet him. I don't trust people who show up when I'm angry," I said. "They tend to hand you shiny knives." "Maybe this one's offering a kitchen instead." I smirked. "You and your metaphors." But the idea stuck. A part of me wanted to delete the message. The other part, the one my parents called stubborn, wanted to know why a man like that was reaching out to me now. I tucked the phone into my pocket and stared out the cafe window, watching the sunset bleed orange over the rooftops. It was almost beautiful, almost peaceful, but beneath that soft light, I could already feel the next storm coming. The kind that didn't knock first, the kind that didn't ask for forgiveness. I thought I'd left the worst behind when I walked out of that bakery. I was wrong, because in a few days I'd find out what betrayal really looks like. When it doesn't come from family, but from someone who pretends to believe in you. When Samuel Grant texted me, I thought the universe was finally throwing me a rope after watching me drown for years. Little did I know it was tossing me an anchor instead, shiny, polished, gift-wrapped, and designed to pull me straight to the bottom. I didn't reply that night. I didn't trust coincidences, especially ones that arrived right after your family detonates your life like a cheap firecracker, but I didn't delete it either. That alone said something. The next morning, I woke up with that uneasy mix of excitement and suspicion swirling in my chest. Lucas texted before sunrise. "Think about meeting him. Could be good." Then another message, or could be terrible, could be fun either way. That made me laugh, a very small, very fragile laugh, but it counted. I decided to meet Samuel that afternoon. Neutral location, public space, just a conversation, not a commitment, not a deal, definitely not trust. The bakery district was busy when I arrived. People lined up outside the trendy spots, sipping iced lattes and complaining about parking. It was almost funny how the world kept spinning while mine was still smoldering. Millstone Cafe's flagship location sat on the corner, all glass and steel and warm lighting. The kind of place you walk into and instantly think, yeah, rich people definitely eat here. Samuel was already waiting, mid-40s, expensive suit, warm smile, the kind people practice in front of mirrors. "You must be the famous pastry genius," he said as he stood. I blinked. "Famous? Your work speaks louder than your family does," he said. "I've been buying pastries from your bakery for years, never liked the owners, but the work, incredible." Compliments feel different when they come from people who want something. They glide instead of land. They warm instead of sink. I sat across from him, chin lifted, guard fully up. "Why did you reach out?" I asked. "Because word travels fast," he said. "People talk. Employees talk. Customers talk. I heard you quit." "I didn't quit," I corrected. "I walked away." "Good," he said, too quickly, too eagerly. "People like you don't quit, they evolve." I narrowed my eyes. "What do you want?" His smile widened like he'd been waiting for that exact line. Partnership, I snorted. With me? Yes, he said without hesitation. I want you to run a new branch, your own space. My funding, your vision. My heart stuttered, my breath hitched, my brain lit up like a fuse. My own space, my recipes, my ovens, my rules. A real chance, hand-delivered by someone with the influence I'd never have on my own. It sounded perfect. Suspiciously perfect. Why me? I asked again. Because your work is exceptional, he said, and because your family has been holding you back for years. My stomach tightened. You don't know them? I don't have to, he replied. I know you, and women like you don't get opportunities, they get used. I hated how true that felt. Try the pastry, Samuel said, pushing a plate toward me. Made by one of my chefs. I want your honest opinion. I tore off a piece, the layers were wrong, the flavor flat, the texture sloppy. It's bad, I said. Exactly, he replied. I need someone who can fix that. I should have been cautious. I should have asked more questions. I should have walked away. But 16 years of invisibility will starve a person, and Samuel was offering me a feast. I'm listening, I said. His grin widened like I'd just unlocked exactly what he wanted. Good, he said. Let's talk terms. We spoke for an hour, maybe more. Ideas flowed, plans sparkled. For a brief moment, I felt something I hadn't felt since childhood. Possibility. Real, unfiltered possibility. But the twist wasn't in that meeting, it was in the moment I left. Because as I stepped out of Millstone Cafe, phone buzzing with messages from a man who wanted to empower me, I froze. Across the street, leaning against a car, arms crossed, face tight, was Jeremy. Watching me, my stomach dropped so hard it felt like the pavement cracked beneath me. What was he doing there? How long had he been standing? What had he heard? What did he think? He pushed off the car and walked toward me with that smug confusion plastered on his face. Meaning someone? He asked. I didn't answer. He chuckled. You think you can leave and, what, build something on your own? My jaw clenched. Yes, without us. Without you, I corrected. His smile faltered. My parents need you back, he said. Your parents need you back, I corrected again. Because you're drowning? His face twisted. We're fine. Really? I asked. Is that why you're stalking me outside cafes? Color rose in his cheeks. I'm not stalking you, I'm trying to save the bakery. The bakery you stole? I didn't steal anything, he snapped. Your parents chose me because you're defensive and emotional and impulsive and better than you, I said softly. His mouth snapped shut. You can't do this, he whispered. You can't build your own shop, you'll ruin everything. Not my problem, I said. It will be, he whispered. Something in his eyes shifted. No longer mockery, no longer arrogance. Something darker, something calculating, something that told me the story was about to turn a corner I couldn't see yet. You think you can beat me? I blinked. Beat you? In business. His voice dripped bitterness, in reputation, in the family. I stared at him, amazed. This isn't about you. It is now, he said. Because your parents already regret choosing me. I froze. He smirked. You didn't know that, did you? My heart hammered. You're lying. Am I? His smile widened. Why do you think I'm here? They think you're planning something big, something that will embarrass them. They're scared. Good, I whispered. He stepped closer, too close. If you walk down this path, he said softly, everyone loses. Them, you, me, Elise, everyone. Then walk away, I replied. I can't. Why? His jaw tensed. Because if I fail, everyone will know they should have picked you. I stared at him, he stared at me. For a moment, just one moment, I saw the raw truth. He wasn't trying to save the bakery. He was trying to save himself. Before I could reply, a voice behind me called my name. I turned and froze. My mother, crying, running toward me. You have to come home, she gasped. It's your father. Ice shot through my veins. What happened? She grabbed my arm. He collapsed at the bakery. My breath caught, my heart skipped, my brain blanked. And in that suspended second, I realized the cruelty of life. You can walk away from your family, but your body will always respond like you still belong to them. I stumbled forward, adrenaline flooding my limbs. "Take me to him," I said. But as we rushed toward her car, I felt Jeremy's eyes burning into my back, watching, calculating, waiting. And for the first time since this nightmare began, a new fear crept into my chest. What if this wasn't an accident?